So the cause of truth and piety cannot be advanced by deceit and lies. These only bear fruit after their kind. Listen to me, brothers and sisters. The cause of truth and piety cannot be advanced by deceit and lies. They bring fruit after their kind. And this is exactly what this society reflects today. We have been eating on the fruit of religion and Christianity. We have been nurtured by this poison, and so every part of our thinking process has been polluted. Everything that you learn in school, everything you go to science to study, everything you go to the medical schools to study has been tainted, was started on the vine that Christianity planted. The fall of man and the salvation of man through Jesus Christ is a monumental fraud. There is no Jesus Christ. Never was a Jesus Christ. And I say that with all knowledge. I don't say it with a faith that I know there's another Redeemer. The only Redeemer is here sitting in this room. Us. We redeem ourselves from our stupidity. We redeem God. God don't redeem you. If you understood what God was, God is a malicious, unfeeling, unconscious force that we bring consciousness to by our existence. We are the civilizers of God. And that's some kind of something like, whoa, Reverend Valentine has lost it. We civilize God. Only we can understand morality. Can you talk about morality from a God that just wiped out a half of a continent of people praying to Christianity? Where was Jesus about 25 years after his assumed presence on earth when Pompeii blew up and wiped out that whole city? That's your God. God is. It is an unfeeling, unthinking, unconscious entity of force. That's all you can say it is. That which we are is God in acknowledgement of itself. We put the civilizing energy into God. It is us that will redeem ourselves from the ignorance and our ignorant acts. Isaac de Casaubon, the ecclesiastical scholar, quoted in Taylor's Diegesis, page 44, as well as in Gill's Hebrew and Christian Records, volume 2, page 19, and writes, "It mightily affects me to see how many there were in the early times of the church who considered it a capital exploit to lend to heavenly truth the help of their own inventions, in order that their new doctrine of Christianity might be more palpable, readily allowed by the wise among the Gentiles. These officious lies, they were wont to say, were devised for a good cause." Again, from Taylor's Syntagma, page 52. He quotes the Orthodox Christian scholar and Englishman Dr. P. Burnett from his thesis De Statu Mortuorum. Quote, "He purposely wrote his thesis in Latin that it might serve for the instruction of the clergy only, and not come to the knowledge of the laity, because too much light is hurtful for weak eyes." He not only justified but recommended the consummate hypocrisy of Christianity, and urged the clergy seriously to preach and maintain the doctrine of secrecy, the reality and the eternity of hell's torments, to maintain the fact that there was a hell when there was not, even though they themselves should believe of no such thing in kind. This bullshit can be read by the work of Eusebius himself. And I wrote the word bullshit there. He writes a ridiculous story about a king named Akbarus who wrote a letter to Jesus and what Jesus wrote back in reply. This was in the Ecclesiastical Histories, Book 1, Chapter 14. Now here's a gem for you good Christians to check up on. Paul, the so-called apostle, admits to forging, lying, and deceiving for the sake of Christ. Let's turn to Corinthians 12, verse 16. Talk amongst yourselves. "And be spent with you, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I be loved." 16. But be it so. I did not burden you, nevertheless, being crafty, I taught you with guile. Oh, it's in your Bible. Oh, we ain't even got to the meat yet. 2 Corinthians. But they not only lied, deceived, and committed forgery, the Apostle Fathers absolutely destroyed all evidence against them and their crimes. They destroyed all evidence of the bogusness of their religion. If there is anything that is certain about the Church Fathers and Christianity, is that they always seem to be afraid of too much light being shed upon them and their true history. And remember what your Apostle John said in the 3rd chapter, verse 19 and 20. Let's read it out loud for all you good Christians to hear. We'll go to John. Verse 19 and 20, John chapter 3. And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men loved darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. 20. For every one that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. Everything about Christianity and its beginnings have been buried in the Vatican, away from the light. And what did they tell you about those who bury the truth? They hate it because their deeds are evil. I myself, here and now, in all the subjects that I attempt to teach to you, ascribe wholeheartedly to John 3, that you got to come out into the light. Which reminds me, and I know this tape goes down to different places because I get calls from all over the country about these brothers and their tapes. And there's some people down in Atlanta who's spreading some vicious gossip about me. And I want to put it out to them. I think I know who it is. Now, the gossip went by way of Chicago to New Jersey and then got to me. See, they don't know who I know. And they don't know that there's certain people that's very close to me that already know who I am and what I do. Now, I ain't never pretended to you that I was holier than thou, was I? Did I ever tell you that I walked on water? And that I was all this goody two-shoe? I've been a low-life motherfucker from the beginning, right? Yeah. But I told you it was real. I don't give a shit what you put in the tabloids, just spell my name right. But if you're going to put something in there, put something in there that makes some sense. They had me having an orgy in Atlanta, in a hotel. Now, this orgy was supposed to have been going on, and the manager called the person who booked me in the hotel, said, don't want me back there again. Now, at the time, I was going with my lady, who was down there at the time, and all of you all know Sister Tassili. She and I were together for about 1.5 years, 2 years. That was it. Now, whoever it was that supposedly spread it up to Chicago. Chicago came my way. People were upset. So I'm just putting this out there to the brother or sister, and to both, who I think it is. If it's who I think it is, I'm expecting a phone call from people who are going to tell you, and you're going to call me. Now, the brother up in Chicago who was trying to spread it called me because I told him that I was going to put his name out there. But the brother called me. We had a nice little talk. We stopped the shit there. But you who started it, I want to hear from you too. Because if I don't hear from you, I'm going to go the way of Bobby Hemmett. And I'll put it out there. Enough said. When the printing press was first invented, we read in Middleton's work called Letters from Rome, page 4, the following quote by the Catholic Cardinal Wolsey, W-O-L-S-E-Y, who foresaw what effects the invention of the printing press would have on Christianity at that time. And he said, if we do not, this is a quote, if we do not destroy this dangerous invention, it will one day destroy us. Dude must have did some heavy readings back then, because it damn sure is. The author T.W. Duane in his book, Bible Myths, and I will be quoting from Bible Myths copiously, because this book is the death knell. This was the spike. This was the wooden stake right in the heart of Christianity. He dropped all the information. This is from page 438. There can be no doubt from the evidence, quoted by Duane, found that had the objections of Porphyry, Heracles, Celsus, and other opponents of the Christian faith been permitted to come down to us, the plagiarism of the Christian scriptures from previously existing pagan documents in the specific charge they would have presented to us is the specific charge they would have presented to us. These works were ordered burned by the prudent piety of the Christian emperors, end quote. Porphyry, who existed between 205 and 270 AD, was a philosopher and a student of Plotinus. He was also a scholar who published a 15-volume work against Christianity. He wrote 15 volumes. Could you imagine? And back then, when you were writing, it was no printing press. You were writing by hand. This man took 15 volumes. Dr. Lardner, the theologian historian, writes, Porphyry's objections against Christianity were held in the greatest esteem with the Gentile people for a long time, and the Christians were not insensible of the importance of his work, as may be concluded from the several answers made to this work by Eusebius and others in great repute for learning. The Christian fathers had this great work destroyed, and all that has come down to us are only the portions quoted by others about the work. Celsus, who lived in the 2nd century A.D., wrote a work entitled The True Word by Celsus. You need to go into your Catholic libraries. And he wrote it against Christianity. Doubt if you might find it there. You may find it in the Theosophy Lodge on 72nd Street. It too was destroyed by the Church Fathers. Any writings about Celsus would most likely be quoted from other people writing about Celsus. The chief source of knowledge about Celsus came from Origen and the works written against it. Now, Origen was so screwed up. Let me tell you about what Christianity did and what they've been destroyed, what they didn't realize about Christianity. Origen was so completely out of his mind about Christianity, he had his wood cut off because he believed that his wood was leading him into sensual pleasures that were damned about it. He had the bad boy cut off because Christianity told him, and in the time when Christianity began to flower through the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd centuries, mortification became the order of the day. The filthier you are, the more mortified you became, the closer to God was the actual principle. That's what they told you. The filthier you were, the closer you were to God. Now we continue with ecclesiastical lying and forgery. Bishop Warburton states, a lie has no legs and cannot stand, but it has wings and can fly far and wide. Lord Montagnier writes, a liar would be brave before God while he is a coward before man. My brothers and sisters, it required an age of darkness, at least 1,500 years, to force the doctrine of Christianity onto humanity, and it has required a steady and continual darkening of the mind to make people believe in that doctrine. But the student of metaphysics will be released from that darkness. Much of the works of the early philosophers who produced some potent arguments against Christianity, but as mentioned earlier, they were sought out and destroyed by the early church fathers. For example, the thesis of Celsus was sent to Origen by a man called Ambrosius with a request that he should refute or argue with it. Origen set about the task of doing this, and it was from Origen's responses that we learned about the arguments of Celsus. His writings are capsulized as follows. Celsus did not believe in miracles or the supernatural. He understood universal law to be the regular orderly orders of the day with no variation. He asserted that the only possibility of the existence of such a person as Jesus of the 4 Gospels that he could conceive depended upon him being a demon, based on all the shit he did in the Bible. Jesus displayed none of the qualities that he deemed essential displayed all of none of the qualities that he displayed as a demon. He therefore rejected these pretensions as being inconsistent with his philosophy. But he believed that even on the basis of the philosophy that permitted the supernatural, he claims for Jesus that the same claims for the supernatural must be rejected. So his arguments are made to become that of a Jew. The Jew rejects the virgin birth of Jesus. The true story of Jesus was that of Mary was that she was divorced from her husband and wandered about, fell in with a Roman soldier named Panthera. And this man was the father of Jesus. So she was hoeing about for a little while, hoeing and scoring at the nightclub inns, just like Constantine. Now, wait a minute, check this out. Let me tell you something. Christianity is the one that makes you think that you're born out of wedlock. You are a bastard child. That's a lot of bullshit, because let me tell you something. If you look at all of the stories and the mythos of all the saviors born, all of them were conceived based on an illicit relationship. The so-called quick pregnancy of the bastard child coming into base, those are the most intelligent children. The ones that come from the one-night stand. Because there is no exhaustion of the seed. Usually when you see each other, it's like, come on. And after the come on, bang, get pregnant, that's the strongest moment. The most passion at that particular time. All of your saviors came this way. Look at Zeus. When Zeus saw Aphrodite, he said, damn. He said, damn. But he was married. Now, Aphrodite was out there bathing, looking good in the water. He knew he couldn't sneak up as a bull, couldn't sneak up as anything else. How do you sneak up on her? He changed himself into a swan. Now, I don't know what Aphrodite was thinking about. But this is the myth. The same damn myth happened when Mary, here's Joseph now, he just got a new bride. My boy said, oh yeah, we're going to get to the nuptial bed. But he's a virgin, and the Lord said, no, you can't have none. I'm going to have her. So what comes down? A dove. Check it. Now that's some sick shit. Now you know why the early church fathers was into fucking cows and sheep. That's right. There's a law. An ecclesiastical law. From you can't fuck sheep. That's where Christianity came from. They had to write a law. I think it was Pope Innocent or Pope Leo. Had to write it down for these priests. Stop fucking the little boys and stop fucking the animals. It's deep. This is what you... Wait a minute. Let's go back. Yeah, they're still doing it now. For every tree is known by its fruits, and a corrupt tree bringeth not forth good fruit. No one can bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing. Yes.
So they said Mary was an immaculate conception.
Yeah.
Then when you look about, then when I studied and found out about immaculate conception, that just meant two people dealing on a spiritual.
Yeah, but immaculate conception is the virgin birth, which is something I'm going to go into when I'm writing my other book.
And my mother was one.
Well, yeah. Well, you see, in those days, if you were not born of a father, you were actually looked down on. As a matter of fact, in those days, the sun could get you pregnant. Now, if you can get pregnant from the sun, because have you ever checked out sperm? Have you ever checked out what sperm look like? They call sperm what? Ora seminalis. Listen to the words. Ora seminalis. If you look at the head of the sperm, there's a halo around it. There's a light in it. So, essentially what you have, sperm is nothing more than the condensed tincture of sunlight. The essence that goes into creating the feminine principle, though part of the sun, her particular wavelength is silver. So gold is male, silver is female. These alchemic principles are what go into creating life. That's the bond. That sets up the chemistry. K-H-A-M. History. All right? So understanding that the male sperm is nothing more than a transport system for light. And it is actually not the sperm that's creating the implosion that creates the explosion called life. It is the light that it is bearing. Okay? Check? All right, now. As a matter of fact, when the story goes that when Joseph found out she was pregnant, he took her back to the temple where he got her. He said, what the hell's going on? And then they said, when Elizabeth said, hell no, get out of here. When got her husband, who was the head of the temple in Jerusalem at the time, and he got the soldiers to kick Joseph out. That's why they had to leave. Take her. She's yours now. Now, the argument goes as follows. One, if Jesus was God, as you hear John 1 and 14 states, would he have chosen such wicked and worthless men as we find in his apostles? Because they were stupid. Two, if he knew that Judas would betray him, why did he make Judas his companion? Three, these are logical questions. Three, the story of the crucifixion and the resurrection are especially stupid and absurd. Jesus was condemned publicly before the eyes of all. No one could doubt this. If he rose again, why did he not make his justification as public as his condemnation? Would he not have confronted his judge, his accusers, the general public, and given irrefutable proof and evidence that he was not a fraud, but he was the Son of God? Four, who saw Jesus after he rose from the dead? A half-insane woman and one or two of his followers. Now, wait a minute. I'm the Lord come down in the flesh. I'm standing before everybody in the Sanhedrin in the crown of thorns being persecuted, talking shit. Yet, to prove who I am, I come back to the dead just to stay in hiding? If your divine purpose, as all these priests keep telling you, was to come and show the lowly people what was going down by your sacrifice, by hanging on the cross, by dying and then coming back, why would you not let everybody know? In the second part of his thesis, Celsus tests the beliefs of Christians by philosophical principles. He shows that the Chemites and the Greeks previously taught all that was true to Christianity and had it in a nobler and better form. He ends his document with a practical note to all Christians. Give up your stupid separatists and your tendencies to separate, to stop worshiping demons, and to join in all civil and military duties imposed on citizens of the state. He goes on to say that God is God and beautiful and blessed. He therefore cannot change. For if he were to change, it would only be for the worse. Therefore God cannot come down as a man. This is what he's saying. See? Check it out now. Has he not the power to do all things without assuming a material body? Does he not know all things? Is he not able as God to do everything that he would do as incarnated God? And no real advantage is gained by men, for they do not know God any better by seeing him in a bodily form. God must be seen by the soul or the spirit, and men are deceived if they imagine they know him better by seeing him in a corruptible body. You understand what I'm saying? The only time you should be seeing any God is within and from within. Anytime you see any man walking, you get sick and tired of looking at him. You're seeing him eat, piss, shit, and they say, well, damn, he's just me. Wouldn't he have served it better than to come down and did something else? Than to come down as we are? What is it being said that you are that? I know I got a little perverted slant on shit, don't I? All right. All right. I just wanted y'all to know that, I don't abjure the Christians themselves. I abjure the ignorance under which they are comatose. They got the bite in the neck. You can see the 2 teeth marks when a Christian comes up. You can see the walking dead when they ring your doorbell and put that awake in your face. They look dead. Nor can the purpose of Christianity, assigns for the incarnation of God in the flesh, be regarded as true, much less logical. The nature of the whole, that is, the omniscience of being, is always one and the same. There is always the same amount of evil in the world as there is good. There is nothing evil in God. The evil is matter. You will understand that as we see it go on. God is continually making the evil serve the good, as always it has. This being the case, it is absurd to believe and assert that God would be especially interested only in a few members of the human race. He works always for the whole. Hence, the Judeo-Christian doctrine is patently stupid, peculiar, and absurd. Did God, at the particular time, suddenly arise from a coma, and just like that, resolve to rescue only a few Caucasoids that came out of the mountains to adopt Christianity and Judaism? By exhibiting the superiority of the ancient teachings, Celsus points to the circumstances that had the ancients appeal to reason, where the Christians, with absolutely nothing to appeal to reason, cries out with their ignorant masses to believe, to believe. He goes on to say that the doctrine of the Son of God was copied from Plato, who copied it from the Chemites. Now, as to the teachings of Paul, you got to remember Paul was the Christian. He was the one that was assigned the work of the church. Every time you turn on them blasted televangelists, they're running something from Paul. That Creflo dollar, boy. Creflo pimp a dollar.